This position is losing for him. On move 9, this position is lost. This is one of the most heartbreaking games I have played in a long time. This is round 2 of the Frederick Showdown in Frederick, Maryland, and I am playing against Nicholas Thomas once again. I played him in the last Frederick Showdown last month. I beat him in a really nice, smooth game. I'm hoping to repeat that, and once again, I have the white pieces against him. So I was super excited. I won the first round, so I was hoping to continue that momentum, and I played e4. He played c5 once again, and so far, so good. It's the exact same. Before, he plays the O'Kelly Sicilian with a6 on move 2. I played d4, bringing my queen out early, breaking some opening principles, but I have a lot of experience with this opening, and I know what I'm doing for the most part, so I can get away with it. He plays knight c6, I play queen e3, and my intentions are clear. I am going to either put my bishop on b2 or d2 and castle queenside, and I'm going to go for the throat here. He plays differently than he did in the game. In the game, I believe he went d6 on move 5. Here, he goes knight of 6. It may be tempting to kick this knight because he has not put any pawn in the center here. But the thing is, if I push e5, that would be a blunder because of knight g4, attacking the queen and adding a second attacker to this e5 pawn. So this would be no bueno. So I went bishop d2 instead. He went e6, so completely different setup. Like in the other game we played, he went d6 and e6, but now he went e6 with no d6 yet. So he could even strike in the center with d5 at some point, potentially. And also opening the door for his dark square bishop to develop. So I castle, and now he goes bishop e7. And I vaguely remember an opening idea in this move order. Just like my last game against Nick Thomas, where I was like, what was the move order? Like, I swear, like it's been so long since I've looked at this opening before. But the idea is e5 now. And allowing knight g4, attacking my queen and my pawn. But what's the difference? Well, the difference is this bishop is no longer guarding the g7 pawn. So if he takes this pawn with this knight, I could take the pawn on g7, although I wouldn't. If he did take back with his g knight, I probably wouldn't take on g7 because of bishop f6. I would play a move like f4, kicking the knight around more, and try to get my other pieces into the game. And it's just a full-on pawn sacrifice. And I'm going to try to use the open lines towards his king. And if he doesn't castle, and if he does castle, I'm going to throw Harry at him, the h-pawn. Harry the h-pawn at him, and we're going to have a very aggressive game. But he takes the e5 pawn with his c knight. And I was like, what? Like, I didn't think you could do that. And you can't. This position is losing for him. On move 9, this position is lost. And the reason is because these knights are defending each other, and they are the only things defending each other. But he has a very tricky idea. My first idea in this position is f4 or f3. Because f3, he moves a knight, I take his other knight. Yeah, makes perfect sense. But, of course, his idea of taking with a c knight is that his knight on g4 is aggressively placed here. And his idea is to play bishop h4. And my queen has very little squares here. I would have to go to queen h3 or queen f4. Queen f4 doesn't look great, but maybe it's okay. But point is, knight f2, forking my rooks. And in this case, his knight on e5 is hanging. But maybe he goes back with this bishop. And then after I move my queen again, he can take this rook. Maybe. I'm not sure what he would have done if I went queen f4 here. He could also consider g5, taking my queen again. Although this looks kind of suspicious. Like, all of his pieces feel really loose. So I don't know about g5. Like, maybe this is okay for me. I just thought this was way more than I should allow during the game. But maybe this is okay. I look very uncomfortable though. And if I go f4, it's a bit worse. Oh, I annotated this game before I recorded this video. I left some notes for myself, and I did some notations. So this is not computer notations. This is just Nathan notation. And by the way, this time control for this game was a game in 30 increment 5, so relatively short for a classical rated tournament. And this is a no engine recap until the very end. So at the very end, I will bring the recap. Actually, in the last video, I completely misevaluated the position. I forgot to look at the engine during the video, but like my personal human evaluation was absolutely off. Anyways, f4 would be even a worse mistake because now bishop h4, and the queen has nowhere to go because these knights are all up in white's face, and the only way for the white queen to go is to h3, and now knight f2 is even stronger because now it's a triple fork, and the queen would have to move again, and then honestly, black could probably take this rook on d1, and let's say if white takes attacking the queen, and I don't want to make a backwards retreating moves, maybe, and if I take black's knight, then black could take this this knight on c3, and if I continue to take on g7, then bishop f6, once again defending the rook, which is not good for me. And if you take back, once again bishop f6 anyways, and black is just up in exchange, and a pawn for that matter. So f3 and f4 are both bad. So what do? Well, I came up with h4. And already at this point, we are both in the tank. Also, oh my gosh, I'm so bright. I'm an angel. Yeah, at this point, we're both in the tank. After h4, I have 22 minutes. So I thought for 6 minutes on that move. And after bishop c5, his move, he has 22 minutes. So we both spent, it's only move 10, and we both spent about 8 minutes. So a decent amount of time for this time control. The issue with his position is that everything is so loose in his position. And I played knight, well, not everything, just these knights. These two knights are too loose. And I played knight e4, attacking his bishop and defending f2. And there's really nothing he can do. Like, for example, if he moves his bishop back to b6 or a7, for example, well, now f3, and once again, your knights are too loose. And he goes queen b6 in the game, but it doesn't matter. I go bishop c3. During the game, I thought this was the only move, because once again, I thought if I went f4 or f3, I thought his idea was that this knight on g1 is hanging, and there was like mind-spinning complications. I just couldn't figure out what to do. Firstly, I thought, okay, maybe he just wants to take this knight, and then after I take, he can move his knight back. And I was like, this probably isn't bad for me, but it doesn't look that impressive either. Okay, well, what if I go f4? What about that move? Well, maybe he could go bishop f2 in this position, attacking my queen. And if he takes, or if I take his bishop, then he can take it back with his queen. And now my queen is hanging. And if I take, then he forks me. And I could take one knight, but this other knight on the h1 is going to get out. And I'm just down in exchange and a pawn. And I was like, oh my gosh, is that his idea? Like, his idea is to go either bishop takes g1 or bishop f2 in some cases and force trades. And my position is kind of ill-equipped to handle that. So I went bishop c3, which maybe that is the only move. I was doing some analysis earlier, and I thought, now bishop f2 doesn't work now, because after knight takes, queen takes, I have bishop f4, and once again, these knights are too loose. Even after a queen trade, he's going to lose material. So I think, but I think in my analysis, I missed knight takes, or bishop takes g1, although I did think about it during the game itself, if that makes sense. Kind of having a word ball here, word vomit. Yeah, I'm bishop c3. I think it's the only way to move. And the idea is bishop takes f2 doesn't work now, because after knight takes, queen takes, you know, my queen's hanging, and if I take him, he forks me. I take his knight, defending my queen. And if he takes my bishop, I take back, and I'm just up a piece. Like, I'm legitimately just up a piece. Well, for 2 pawns. Because he just took a second pawn, and I gambited the first pawn. So he's up 2 pawns, but I'm up a piece here. And I'm just up a piece. I'm literally just up a piece. There's nothing more to be said. That's it. That's done. He plays knight e3 and trades off his only active piece. All of his other pieces are on the back rank. This is an absolute dream come true. Like, I'm just going to go on to win this game. Oh, nice. So, it's smooth game. Awesome. Just like the first time I played him. He went d5. Because if he didn't go d5 and castle, for example, I'm going to go bishop d6 and squeeze him on the dark squares. He cannot move an inch. So, that's why he plays d5. I play knight f3, just developing. He plays castles. And I decide I'm going to soften up the squares around his king and play h5 and h6. So if the idea is, so just like my first game in this tournament against Eric in the first round, where my opponent got a pawn to a6, and that was a big weakness to my position, but now I got my pawn on h6. And now it's a huge difficulty in a lot of endgames where if I get a rook on the 7th or 8th rank, like, this pawn is going to be really great in controlling g7 or going to the back rank and forcing the king up and attacking h7. So this pawn is also just closer to promotion. So it's really, really good and also restricts the black king. So this pawn is actually really, really good. But it could also potentially be a weakness if I don't play this position right, because it's kind of hard to defend all the way on h6. But I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think it will be a weakness in this case. I play rook d1, stopping him from playing e5 because the pawn will be hanging on d5. But he plays bishop d7. I will go king b1. I really want to play c4 because if he takes, I just take his bishop. But if I play c4, he can pin. And if I go b3, he can go b5. And this is not what I want. He's getting too much counterplay on my king. It's probably still winning, but why am I doing this to myself? King b1 is a mistake. Is a mistake. It's not that big of a deal. I'm still winning, but I should not be trying to play c4. I should just centralize my other rook. That seems perfectly reasonable. Like maybe just like rook d1 here, and if rook c8, maybe I can play c3. And I want to restrict his pawns from advancing long term. This is probably a decent way to play. Probably. Maybe I can play b4 as well at some point. Not now because the pawn's hanging. But maybe I can reroute my knight to the dark squares, to a5 and c5. That seems pretty reasonable. But instead I play king b1, which is nothing wrong because now I'm threatening c4. But he just puts rook in the open file. And I don't want to play b3 and c4 and start trading pawns on the queen side so much. Oh, though maybe it's not that bad. I do play bishop d6. And I was just kind of playing fast here, and I was also getting really low on time. At this point, I already stopped notating a while ago. Like, we used up all of our time. Actually, back in this position, in this critical position, after bishop c3, I thought for 11 minutes on this move. And I had like 9 minutes left over. Like, I had 21 minutes, thought for 11 minutes. That's not good math. 10 minutes, I guess. So it was bad. It was bad. Like, we got super low on time, super quickly. So at this point, I'm just moving fast, and I played bishop d6, and it's speculative because the bishop does not really belong on d6 because it can get kicked out really easily. But my hope was he would go rook d8 and blunder this geometry where the bishop attacks both the rook and the pawn at the same time, and he cannot defend his pawn. And I'm like, oh man, this would be so awesome if he just gave me an easy win like this, because I control all the dark squares really well, and like, he has no play in this position. He has absolutely zero play in this position. But he just plays rook e8. He doesn't fall for it, of course. And I centralize my rook, which makes a lot of sense. But now he plays rook c6. I play bishop b4. I could have put my bishop this way too. That's not bad. But I decided to go bishop b4 because I like controlling the dark squares here. And he goes rook c4, attacking my bishop again. But I go c3, and he goes bishop c6. And I come up with this devious plan. And I go down to like 30 seconds or 20 seconds, something like that. I go down to seconds on the clock because I come up with this really neat idea. And it is to simplify into a winning endgame because I'm still up material. And it starts with knight d4, which allows him to play e5. And now I play b3, and his rook is trapped. This was a horrible, 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 horrible mistake. I'm like in pain just looking at this. I knew that he would take my bishop on b4, sacrificing sacrificing exchange, because after I take back, now he takes my knight and his bishop guards his rook, and I take and he takes and I take this pawn, and I knew that. I calculated this all out, and I thought after bishop c6, a4, king f7, b5, I thought this endgame was winning for me. That is completely wrong. That is completely wrong. I completely misevaluated this. And the key thing I misevaluated, so I'm going to go deeper into different lines and what I should have done, but the key thing I misevaluated is that after I take the pawn on d5, and after I go to bishop c6, my idea was I have enough counterplay after bishop takes here, and let's say g5 takes here. Even this is bad. Why did I even think this was winning? This is still not winning. But in my head, I'm like, oh wait, this is kind of good. No, like I thought this was winning, which is obviously it isn't. But the thing is, it's worse than this. What happens in the game is worse than this. Believe it or not. Believe it or not, it's worse than this. Because what happens in the game is I go rook d8 and he goes g5. He didn't have to. He could have gone bishop takes and then rook h8 and bishop e4 check. And then after king up, then g5. But the main thing I blundered was that this pawn on h7 and this king on b1 are on the same diagonal. And I got to this position and I was like, oh man, maybe it's not winning. I paused here for a few seconds. I only had a few seconds left. You know, I only have like 20 seconds left. I didn't have time to think about it. But I was like, okay, I could play b5, which was my original intention, or I could play king c2. Oh, whoops, king c2. Trying to bring my king forward. And I was like, oh man, how am I going to win this game? No, I should be thinking about how am I not going to absolutely die here? That is what I should be really thinking about here. And honestly, maybe something like rook h4, playing super passively, and after d4, playing rook h2, and just like turtling, like that, doing the turtle, and then like if he allows me, I'm gonna win this pawn, and maybe I'm gonna try to use my king with my pawns, to try to advance to the queen side. Like that's probably the best way to go. But no, instead I'm like, well, I got this for, I might as well commit, and I go into this endgame where I'm just down 2 pawns. Like he plays g5 here, and I cannot defend my pawn on h6. Remember what I said earlier? How this pawn on h6 can be a weakness in some cases? This is it. This is the worst case scenario. This was the absolute worst case scenario for me. So, instant rewind. Back to this position. The heartbreaking part about this position was that I shouldn't have played b3. I should have taken on c6. If he takes back with the rook, he loses the pawn on d5, and I have an open file. I'm going to go on to win this game. And if he takes back with his pawn, I go rook d4. And if he takes, I take with check. And if he goes here, then I go check here, forcing king up. And now I go b3. This position is completely winning. I mean, he does have a lot of pawns. For example, he probably takes. And oh boy, he's got a lot of pawns. But this is completely winning. And I was just one move off. Like, this idea of allowing e5 is fine, but I just missed knight c6 because I thought this was winning. And my evaluation was completely off. I honestly thought that if my king and this pawn weren't on the same diagonal, maybe this endgame was still winning. But no, I just figured out right now that if that even if he didn't, even if he just took this pawn and allowed me to take on h7, this position is still completely lost. Or at the very least, I'm the only one that can lose this. He doesn't have to worry about losing. He's got two connected passed pawns. So my evaluation off. Horrible. Horrible, 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 horrible. And all this happens in the game. Sorry, I'm like clicking a lot while I'm doing this. So all this happens in the game. He plays g5. I play g3, saving my pawn. And we trade pawns here. But I make another blunder. My final blunder. This position is probably already losing. But I might be able to hold it. Maybe. If I go rook e6. But I blunder with less than 10 seconds on the clock, and I play rook d6. After king b4, or king g4, I cannot go rook d3 because of the pin. My final blunder. I had to go... I need to defend this pawn. I should have gone rook e6, because that's a king g4 here. And don't get me wrong, I'm not winning. I'm not winning. But, you know, he has to work for it. I'm going to bring my king forward. After takes, probably pawn takes, I imagine. And, yeah, I guess it still is winning either way. It doesn't really matter. Because even if I bring my king forward like this, so I have to stop the pawn. And he's just going to bring his king back. And eventually, I'm going to be forced to move. And if this was a rook pawn, then I would have a chance to draw, but I do not. So I really screwed that up. So, okay, so that makes me feel a little bit less bad since it's still losing anyways. But anyways, the game ends in very simple fashion. Also here, I shouldn't have gone rook b6, but I did because I was desperate. And I was like, maybe I can win if I take and just push my pawn because my king blocks his bishop's, you know, attack on that square. But, like, he just pushes his pawns. I also touch my rook and, like, hover it over h7, almost hanging it to the bishop. But then I play rook g6. I go here, and it's, you know... This exact move order, this move order didn't happen, but it doesn't matter. Point is, I lose. And, yeah. That was pretty brutal. Honestly, just looking at it right now, it's giving me pain. It's giving me pain. It's giving me a lot of pain. So, I think I'm done with this video. I will see you guys in the next one. I'm going to hit the game review. I'll see you guys. No way. This is a draw? Rook h5. I just keep my rook here. I suspected it could be, but why? How is it a draw? Rook e5, d5. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. This makes sense, but where 3 point is, so why is it winning if he doesn't? Let's go king f2 first. Oh, so now if rook check, he has bishop g2, but king here, the issue is my king blocks him from going forward. If he goes king g1, oh, his bishop's hanging, yeah. And it's possible I got the notation wrong. Well, this is all from memory, but I think I got the moves right. But what's most surprising, this position is +3 with rook e1 because my king gets in and my rook is active on the 7th rank, and this pawn on h6 is actually doing something. And the best move is for him to give up the d3 pawn and play f5. What about g5? Does that do anything at all? I assume bishop c6 is the more natural move. But now king d4, and I'm getting in on the dark squares, and I'm going to push my pawns. And in this case, my king is the thing that oh, that's not even a good move. What? Rook e5, 4 Karunos? Ah, and bishop c6, then I take your passed pawn. Or your pawns that are advanced. King e5 takes king f6. That's crazy. Oh my gosh, and it's like +5 in this position, which is crazy. So you're telling me I still misevaluated this endgame? Yeah, I don't have to take this pawn. I don't have to. It's not going anywhere. But I was rushing in this position. I didn't think before recapturing. I just did it automatically. So, yeah, knight d4 is the best move. Although, so how is this taking on c6 though? Is this still a good move? It's a mistake. But this line of b takes and rook d4, it's still good. But for some reason, after check here, oh, that's just completely winning. Yeah, wait. Rook d4, he has to go rook takes, and e4. Oh, this position is completely winning. It's only +2, only +2. Nah, this position is completely winning. So yeah, I should have. It says it's a mistake. I think this is way more obvious. This is, okay, I disagree with the computer. Knight takes c6 is not a mistake. This is a much easier win than b3. I disagree with you, computer. I completely disagree with this. Anyways, I'll see you guys.